Hello, and good evening to everyone. My name is Abby Moore, and I'd like to welcome you to Harmonic Youth Orchestra's first summer festival. We're very excited to have you all here and to have Grant Kirkhope with us. Thank you for being here. To everyone watching, feel free to ask questions at any time using the Q&A feature, and I'll turn it over to Rachel Fox, one of our hosts, to introduce our guest.
Hello, as Abby said, I am your host for this webinar. Thank you so much for being here. I'm just going to give a quick introduction of you before we begin. So Grant Kirkhope is a British video game composer, film composer, and voice actor. He is best known for working on games such as Ghostbusters, Donkey Kong, Super Smash Bros., Ultimate, and Minecraft Dungeons, along with many others. Grant Kirkhope has been nominated for various awards for his contribution to music and the composition scene, and we are so glad that you are here today. So here are some questions that I'm going to ask you that have been submitted to us before this webinar, and some audience questions should they come in. So could you first start for us like a short background about yourself and I guess how you got to where you are today in musically?
Okay, so I just went through school, I guess, like you guys did in the UK. I played recorder at 4, like trumpet at 6. Started playing guitar like about 11 or 12. I was kind of classically trained as a trumpet player, but I'm a kind of self-taught guitar player. So I spent most of my time playing in rock bands and metal bands as a kid, and doing the trumpet thing properly trained at the same time. I went to the Royal Northern College of Music in Manchester in England and did a degree in classical trumpet playing all the time, playing in metal bands all the time, and at the same time I had long hair, finished doing the degree when I was 22, and then I just promptly sort of stopped doing that and just played in bands all the time. So I spent a lot of that, well, the next 11 years really, I was playing in rock bands and soul bands, stuff on trumpet, stuff on guitar, bits and pieces, just kind of doing rock and rolly things for a good sort of chunk of that time. Some of the bands did well, some of the bands did terribly. It's just one of those, I was playing in pubs, making no money. Or one of the bands that I played for was called Little Angels, who were a very big UK rock band at the time. We ended up being the opening act for Bon Jovi and Van Halen and people like that. Brad Adams, ZZ Top. We did some gigantic tours, playing to like 90,000 seat arenas, stuff like that, which is, fantastic for the time. And it kind of all came to an end when I was like 32. The band split up, and it was, I was back to playing in just covers bands and pubs really. And a friend that I had who played in the local bands that I also played with on keyboards announced one day that he'd got a job somewhere. I was like, knowing that and you got a job, we all just kind of played in bands and hope for the best, So he said, I've got a job at Rare in the UK, who were a video games company. I'm writing music for video games, and off he went. I couldn't believe it. So he'd been there about a year and a half, and Rare was super successful at that point. They just had Donkey Kong Country on the Super NES, which is a gigantic hit, like 10 million sales. Nintendo officially bought half the company because it was so important to their kind of going forward. So he'd been there a year and a half. Said to me, look, Grant, you've been on, playing in band for all this time. Don't you think it's time you got a job? And I was, 33, thinking, what am I going to do? He said, well, why don't you try do what I'm doing? So I bought a computer at the time, a copy of Cubase, which is like a sequencing program that you can write music in, a synthesizer, and I spent the next year writing music that I thought was appropriate for video games. And I sent Rare 5 cassette tapes in those days. I don't know if you guys know what cassette tapes are. And I sent them 5 cassette tapes over the course of 94, sorry, and never got a reply. And I out of the blue, got a letter saying, please come and interview, and I got the job. I couldn't believe it. It was a complete fluke. When I was at university, I was terrible at harmony. I failed the harmony exam 3 years out of 4. I only passed it in the final year, just by the skin of my teeth. So I never once thought I could be a composer. I wrote songs for the metal bands that I played for, but that was about it. So, getting a job as a composer was like, I never, ever entered my head, ever. It was an absolute fluke. If Robin and my friend hadn't gone and done it, I'd never have done it.
Wow, that sounds very interesting. Not many people follow that track, and so yeah, it's very interesting. How do you think your classical training, especially in trumpet, benefited you in composition?
So I think it does. I think having a class program did help me, but I kind of felt that when I was at the College of Music for doing my thing, I kind of felt like the most important part of that I really valued was the college orchestra would rehearse every Tuesday and Thursday morning, and I never missed those rehearsals in 4 years. And I was there. I was there every Tuesday and Thursday morning, 10 till 1, and just hearing those people play some of those big works like Stravinsky Firebird, and I mean lots of stuff, but I mean, things like that. That was so important to me to listen to those things. I always say to people, having that kind of harmonic training isn't always super important. It's more about, if you can hear it, I feel like you can write it. And so I felt like watching those guys play through those big pieces and watch them rehearse it and understand it, how an orchestra sounds, how it all works, I think that was invaluable, because I was terrible at harmony. I wouldn't be able to do it. I would never, So, and I guess also the advent of computers now that are really powerful, you can get lots of programs out there that are free to use to write music, and you can buy sample libraries that are, you can have a full orchestra at your fingertips on a keyboard on a computer. So it means you can sit there and play with an orchestra, mess around with it, and see what it sounds like and understand it. I mean, when I was starting, there was nothing like that, So, so I don't know. I know lots of composers have had no harmonic training whatsoever who are really, really good. So I still feel like it's what's in your head.
Yes, that makes a lot of sense. Harmony is extremely important in composition, but formal training isn't always necessary, but it is helpful. What is your creative process when composing pieces? Do you have a specific creative process that you follow?
So I'm not really a very intellectual composer, I'd have to say. I just generally mess around until I hear something that I like. And I really think that most people do that anyway, really. So I might load up a sample, a French horn or a clarinet or a synthesizer, and I'll mess around with it and find a set of chords that I like, or maybe a melody that I like, and just kind of build it up. I think once you get the meat and potatoes, which is a melody and the harmony together, you can color it in how you want. Turn it into a rock song, turn it into an orchestral piece, a chamber ensemble, whatever you want. Once you've got those kind of building blocks, just the harmony, just the melody which you like, you can color it any way you like. So I'll say I just really do mess around until I hear something that I like. I'm afraid that's it.
Well, that's some great advice. How do you, I guess along the lines of that, how do you come up with just musical ideas or decide on instrumentations or the length or form of the piece?
So I really feel like any composer worth the salt, before you even touch the keyboard, it's like imagination. It starts telling a story. It's like, it's just like being an editor or anything else in movies or music. You shut your eyes and think, what does that sound like? How does it feel to me? So if someone says to me, it's a frozen ice castle, I'll be thinking about pizzicato strings and celeste and glockenspiel and things that I think that sound spiky and icy in my head, right? Or if it's a lovely warm forest or whatever, I'll think about maybe bassoons or super warm strings and clarinets, things that I find that in my mind conjure up that image. And I do feel like human beings are a little bit pre-programmed to expect certain sounds at certain times, just because movies have been around for a long time now. So when you see things in movies, you expect them to be to be the same way you've always heard it. I know it sounds a bit bizarre, but I feel like we are kind of a little bit pre-programmed. So I do think that before I touch the keyboard, I'll conjure up the instrumentation in my head before I even touch it.
That makes perfect sense. I mean, many people think of certain instrumentations or effects that they're trying to achieve. Will you use a certain musical idea more than once throughout different pieces you have composed, or do you try, once you've used that musical idea, do you try to do something different when you're writing for a different piece?
So, I think I like the whole leitmotif thing. I don't know if you got, what leitmotif is, right? It's like you get a little bit of melody that kind of goes with the characters. So when it's Harry Potter, da, 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 you don't need to hear that and you know where you are, right? Or da, 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 like Darth Vader, right? You just those little short snippets, and they're called leitmotif. So I like that way of writing. I like to try and make sure that you get lots of themes. And I feel like I'm quite known for being a kind of a melody composer. And so I do tend to get hired by people who want to make sure there's melody in the project, whether it be a movie or whatever it is, or a video game. So it's nice if you can carry a melody through something that you're doing, or like on a game or on a movie, it's great to be able to carry it all the way through. So it kind of, when you see the character or the situation, it always plays the same tune. Maybe a different arrangement, but I mean, it's still the same basic melody kind of thing. I like that. I mean, I kind of feel like it's become a little bit less prevalent in movies these days. I feel like all the big blockbusters that I would expect to have big tunes that you can remember, like Star Wars and like Pirates of the Caribbean, you know those tunes, right? And I kind of feel like something like Marvel, they've got these gigantic movies, gigantic characters. There's not really an awful lot of melody flying around that you can really remember, apart from maybe the Avengers, which is I feel that's a strong, you can remember that tune. But all composers are different. Some composers want to be just ambient in the background. They don't want to get in the way. I want to get in the way. I like to write music that people remember. So I guess it's just put down to personal taste. But I do like writing like that. It's my favorite way to write.
Yeah, and you mentioned that you're a melody composer. I guess how did you work on distinguishing yourself and your composition style from those of other composers who were also composing for similar genres of music?
I don't know how I do that really. It's one of those weird things. I feel like, when I listen to rock guitar players play, but if I hear Eddie Van Halen play, I know it's him without even knowing it's him. I get a couple of notes, I know it's his style. Or Brian May from Queen, I can tell it's his. You can tell his style a mile away, right? Because it's really stylistic. The vibrato, the way they play. So I feel like a lot of composers, like it or not, you've probably got something that you do a lot in music, a similar chord sequence, a similar melody that you just use all the time, or bits and pieces of it that you can't help because your brain works that way that puts you apart from everybody else. So I did a game years ago called Banjo-Kazooie, which was like. It's one of those games that's kind of lasted for like 20 odd years. People are still talking about it now. It was just pure luck, really. And I wrote a kind of it was a kind of umpire thing. I guess you guys call it polka over here. I used tritones, which is, I don't know if you know what tritones are. It's the furthest note. So a scale of C major, C to C is the octave, and the middle distance is the F sharp. That's the furthest point away from the root. So the two characters in the game were opposite, so I felt like the notes would represent the oppositeness of the characters, therefore the C and the F sharp, and so I'd umpire these tritones all over the place. And it just kind of became a sound for that game, and people really remember me for that. So I think people always say they can really tell when it's me. It's hard for me to sort of know about that, because it's when you write it yourself, you don't really know. You just hope for the best. But I think I do have when I do have a recognizable sound, I think most of the time. People always say they can tell it's me. But I've written other stuff, but people can't tell it's me. So I think that when you're left to your own devices, perhaps you fall more into the things that you do that is your style. And when you're asked to write something that isn't your normal kind of home or style, like when I did Minecraft Dungeons, I don't really write like that very often. It's like very synthy, ambient. I don't write that stuff a lot. I don't write it a lot. So that probably doesn't sound like me. I mean, maybe it does, I don't know. But something like Mario Plus Rabbids Kingdom Battle, when I did the Mario game, that sounds like me. So yeah, that's it.
Wow, that is very interesting about tying in notes with characters and stories of the game. So along the lines of that, how do you tie in like original music from games such as Mario when writing your compositions for, let's say, a different part of the game?
I just think you have to look at the action, what's going on, look at what the director's telling you to do. It's I guess it's a big temptation. They've got to go, well, I'm the composer, I know what I'm talking about, you're talking nonsense, do what I want you to, this is what it should be like. And that's not really the way to do it. You need to try and please the person that's employing you, the person that hires you. That's the way to do it. You have to try and get their vision of the game into the music. And lots of time, not everybody's very musical. They don't know how to describe what they want. So you have to try and find a common language between the composer and the director that you can both understand. So I always say to the guys, look, find me a movie clip that you think has the feeling and that you want it to be in the game, whatever it may, or send me some MP3s that you think are in the right direction, so you get at least to get an idea what they want to hear. So I think that's super important, to not try and play the I'm the composer card, because it'll just get you fired probably, and just get somebody else don't want to argue with you. And find some kind of language. And I think movies works really well, or the video games or whatever, that works really well to get the idea from them to you what they want.
Yeah. Do you get to see the animations you're composing for during or before you start composing for that particular scene, or do the directors tell you what they want and then you compose it without seeing the animations?
So it can be a bit of all of those things, really. It just depends what point in the game you're getting brought on, or the movie you're getting brought on. Like I've worked as a staff composer for 12 years, so I was there from the very beginning. Doing the Mario game, and the one I'm working on right now, I was kind of, the one before Mario Plus Rabbids Kingdom Battle, I was kind of brought in maybe a year into development. And this one I've been brought in about the same time, about a year or so into development-ish. So, but sometimes you're brought in right at the end when they've got it all done and they say, here you are. And they might hand, it could be as simple as, here's a few lines of text about what we think it should sound like in this particular area or whatever it is. Or it could send you a video of gameplay or video of the cinematic sequence, or it could be any one of those things. So I think that you have to be adaptable to, work on a little information or a lot of information. I mean, everyone's different.
Yeah, that's some great information for people who are starting out and are interested in composition. Speaking of that, what would you recommend to an instrumentalist who is interested in getting involved in composition? Where should they start?
Start writing. Just get on with it. That's the best thing to do. I mean, as I say, there's plenty of free programs out there you can use to write music, even like something like GarageBand. I mean, I know that's not the best of things, but there's lots of programs out there that are free that you can download, you can use. And also being student, you get student discounts, right? So you get a lot of the programs that I use, you get a lot cheaper than I pay for them. So learn to use it. Learn to, it's great fun. It's great fun writing a part, and then it gets recorded into the computer, and you write the next part, and then the next part, and you build it up, and you make this thing. It's really exciting to do it. I feel like you don't need to have any harmony training or anything. You don't need to have any of that. You need to just get on with it. I always say to people, it's like people I see want to be game designers. I want to be a game designer. We make a game. Go and get hold of Unity or one of these programs or Unreal, whatever it is, and make something. Even if it's a tiny little spritey thing, make something. I think that it's important to just get stuck into it. I feel like that. Don't think it's this big, massive wall that you can't break through, because you can. Anybody can do it. Anybody can be a composer. So why not? You can write. If you want to write something that's completely discordant and it sounds awful, who cares? That's what composers do, right? There's plenty of composers out there that write awful music, like to me, and they've got a massive following. So I feel like it's you just need to get stuck in and have a go.
Yeah, that is very inspirational for anyone who wants to start. So once people have, let's say they've written a composition, what is the process to get your music out there, to get your name out there, or for you particularly, to get your music into movies and games in the first place? Are you commissioned by film directors or game developers, or do you just start sending music to people to get yourself known?
So that's hard, right? That's a hard part. So I think a lot of people think that you write a great piece of music, write several pieces of music that are really fantastic. You stick them on your website, you put them on YouTube, and you just sit back and wait. Now, you're just not going to get anywhere doing that. There's a gazillion people doing that, right? I kind of feel like having the talent is only 50% of the battle. The other 50% is the people that you know, the networking that you do. So that is massively important, right? However you do it, you need to get yourself into a space where whatever that is on the line or physically in person, where people are doing the thing that you want to do. If you want to make games, you need to get around game makers. So you go to conventions or go to your local game jam or things like that, where you meet people that are making games. I can give you a couple of examples, like the guy that Daniel Rosenfeld is called C418 on Twitter. He was just a kid who was in a chat room when Notch was looking for music for Minecraft. Notch was, no one had heard of the game. It's completely early on. Just said, I'm writing a game. Anybody in this chat room want to write music? So I can do it. So Daniel got that gig by just being in the right chat room with Notch at the right time. And is mega successful as a composer, because people love Minecraft to death. Right? Another guy I know called Danny Baranowski, who wrote music for Super Meat Boy and Binding of Isaac and lots of games like that. Crypto Necrodancer. He's a well-known indie composer. He was that guy that worked in Lowe's and Home Depot, humping stuff around, all that kind of stuff. And he wrote a piece there's a thing called OC Remix, which is like a video game site where people post covers of video game tunes. People cover my stuff, and you know, the other arrangements. A guy heard Danny's arrangement of one of my pieces, funny enough, on the OC Remix site, liked it, contacted Danny and said, I'm making a game called Cannibal, it was called. Do you want to write music for it? And Danny did that, and everyone liked the game. The game did really well, and Danny's now, you know, a well-known video game composer. So everyone's path's a bit different, but you need to find a way to get to people that are doing what you want to do. It's no good just putting it out on a website and hoping for the best. It's probably not, so it might happen, but it's going to be probably unlikely. People get to hear your stuff by seeing it on a game, by seeing it in a short movie or a short animation or something like that. Something you can show that they can see somewhere. And as I say, conventions are, you know, they're expensive to go to sometimes, but you know, there's some small ones that are kicking about all over the country. You go along with your stuff and you meet people. And, you know, I know it's hard to walk to somebody and have a cold conversation with them about what they do and what you do. But you have to do that. And I find it uncomfortable. It's not easy. And I've been doing it for 27 years. And I still find it difficult to walk to people and say, hey, what's your name? I'm a composer. What do you do? You know, I find it hard. It is hard. No one likes it, but it is the only way. So unless you're very lucky. So you have to get out there and network, however that is. And it could be the smallest scale. There's a school where you're all doing something together, so whatever it is, and you make something, or the college thing, or whatever it happens to be. It doesn't have to be this giant thing you go to. There's lots of little pockets of stuff all over the place. You just got to go and find them.
Yeah, that is extremely helpful. Networking is obviously very important in all professions, including composition. So what other ways have you personally networked throughout your life, and especially early on in your career when you were trying to make a name for yourself as a composer? I guess, like, how did you know, like, which type of people to contact, or like which events to go to in order to gain the right networking opportunities?
So I was lucky in some respects because I was a staff composer for 12 years. My first gig was a staff composer. So I went to work 9 to 5 at a company, just like any job, right? So that benefited me from, I could write music for video games. The video games went out there, people paid them and heard them and knew who I was, right? So it's different for me. I kind of feel these days that's less happening than it used to be. Like a lot of the big companies still carry composers, but most people don't these days. Most of the big video game companies carry sound design guys who do the sound effects. The composers are usually like me, freelance guys. You just get hired, you know, because they've heard of you or whatever, or they've played a game you did in the past and like you. And that's generally the way I get hired. People like something that I did in the past and contact me to say, do you want to write something for this? You know, like that. So I'm different in some respects. I think as someone starting out, it's you know, it's tricky. I don't know how I'd start. If I'd start again, I don't know how I'd do it. You just have to find that path to get yourself out there. So, you know, but I mean, things like there's a thing called GDC, which is in San Francisco, which is very expensive. It's a week, like a 3 days event where it's probably the biggest game development thing in the world, I think. And that generally is just developers that go to that. So it's a big conference full of, and people, there's lots of talks. You can go to the audio track, or the programming track, or the animation track, or the writer's track, and you can go to whatever you like. It's quite a lot of money. You got to stay there for 3 days. San Francisco is expensive. You know, it's not cheap at all. But that is a very big one where you will be surrounded by thousands and thousands of game developers from right from the top right to the very bottom. Like this bottom indie guys who are making their own little indie project by themselves, or the top AAA guys who are making Call of Duty or whatever it is. So everybody's there. Do your homework. You know, find out what the guy looks like, and go and find him. Go and talk to him. You know, if you're going to be on one of the panels talking, go to that panel room. Hang about and you know, make an use of yourself and talk to the guy. You know, these people are receptive. You know, they're not ogres. They're willing to talk to you. So you know, you need to. As I say, it's hard. That bit's hard, but you know, it's the people that will not take no for an answer that have got a chance at getting somewhere. If you give up, it's all over already. If you're the person that wants to do this thing more than whatever it is, more than anything else, and you just will not take no for an answer, those are the guys that get the chance.
Wow, that is some great advice to give to all these students. So we have a question from a member of the audience. This question is from Connor. He's asking, what game composition were you most connected to that you've written?
Probably all of them. I mean, you know, I know it sounds daft, but I think you have to be. I think people can tell when you're faking it. If you're not putting your heart and soul into it, it's just obvious. And I feel like I'm quite well known these days. People expect a certain standard from me. I don't know if that's good or bad, but I feel like you have to commit your absolute, pour your life into it. That's what I try to do. You know, you've got to, because it's no point faking. There's too many other good composers out there who are way better than me already. You know, I think that you've got to, you can't do that. You've got to pour your soul into it.
That is extremely important for any composition, just to put yourself into it. So along the lines of that, have you ever had a form of writer's block when writing your composition? And if so, what have you done to overcome it and continue writing that piece?
So I don't really get writer's block, and I think it's because when I was a staff composer for 12 years, you know, I got used to going to work at 9 till 5 every day, because in the UK you work 9 till 5, 9 till 6 in North America. So you turn up at 9 in the morning, you start writing music. So it got me into that really workman-like habit of just starting to write every day. And some composers have kind of, you know, they want to sit in a darkened room, wait for the hand of the Lord to hand them a song, all that. You know, I don't need that inspiration. I don't need to do that. I need to sit down and just hammer away at it, chip away at it. And I kind of think that that's what everyone needs to do. Like, I know that I'm best writing 8:30 in the morning till maybe 1 or 2 in the afternoon, and I'm done. I can't write anymore. I get tired. I feel sleepy. I can do more at night if I want to work, if I'm extra busy. But my mornings are my sort of best time when I feel like I'm most productive. So, you know that. Set yourself a regime every day. You go, I'm going to write between 10 and 2 or 11 and whatever it is. Set yourself that, find your best time to write and set that, and write something every day. Even if it's not very good, write something every day. I remember John Williams is like, you know, he's a superhero, right? Like, he used to always say he'd write something every day, good or bad. Even if you've got nothing to do, write something every day. And I feel like that's really important. You get yourself into the routine and the habit of that then. And then that breaks your writer's block, because you're going to get used to sitting down at a certain time and doing it. And so I'm really grateful for being a staff composer for all that time, because I can sit down and start something. It might not be great, but I can sit down and start something off, and I can get going with it. You know, write the first note, write the next note, write the next note. Before you know, you've got a little melody going or a little chord sequence. You know, don't just go, oh, I can't think. You know, just hit the keyboard, load up a sample, like synthesize the notes, and just hit. You know, do something with it. You know, don't sit there and just think you're going to get this blast of blinding light of inspiration, because it might never come. I'm a very workman-like composer. I just get on with it, and I think that really works for me. And I feel like if you do that, I think it'll work for you.
Oh, I agree. That is definitely a great process, just to write and write until you have enough hours of practice in that it really comes a lot easier. And so now we have a few questions from audience members. So this one's from an anonymous attendee. What music programs or softwares do you use that are crucial for your composition process?
So I don't feel any program's crucial. I feel like you find the one that works for you. So I use my main sequencing package, which is like the thing that you use to input the note information, is called Pro Tools. It's quite expensive. I kind of didn't really want to use it, but the company I worked at years ago, they switched to it. I just kind of got lumbered with it, and I just don't want to change now. But there's Cubase, there's Logic, there's Reaper, there's lots and lots of different programs you can use to write music. A lot of these programs come with instruments built in. So you just have to buy that program with your student discount, right? Or sometimes they might let you use it for free, who knows? I mean, there's free ones like that too. And it'll come bundled with a synthesizer and some noises and bits and pieces. You can start writing music straight away, right? So I use Pro Tools for the main thing. I use a sampling thing called Contact, which holds all my samples inside it. So I've got big orchestral libraries, you know, that cost thousands of dollars, and some that don't. You know, I feel like I don't feel there's any limitations about. I don't feel like there's any kind of limitations on entry level right now. I think you can get into it reasonably cheaply, if not for free, to start writing. You might have to buy a keyboard that's got keys on it to use. You probably have to have a computer or a laptop. But I mean, you know, Hans Zimmer, who's the megastar, says you know, all you need to write a film score is a computer, keyboard, and a microphone. And I think I agree with him. I don't think it doesn't need to be flashy and massive. You can write a great music with very little. You know, a decent little synthesizer. It's a little synth that's not a hardware synth, but like a plugin that appears on your computer screen. You load it, your sample, your sequencer. You click on your little synthesizer, it pops up. You select the sound, you start playing with it. You record it into, you know, like I feel like anybody can do that. I think computers are so powerful these days, it's no longer restrictive. But back years ago, it was. You had to have a powerful computer that cost lots and lots of money. You don't now. Everyone's got a laptop at home that's completely adequate. So I don't think you just need to find something, type it in the internet. What's the best, the cheapest, or what's a free sequencing program, or whatever. It's called a DAW, a digital audio workstation. That's what they kind of call it. What's the cheapest DAW, the freest DAW I can use? You'll probably come up 20 or 30 of them. I don't know. You can download it and have a go. And some of the bigger programs like Cubase or Logic, I think they probably you can try it out for a while with a trial, see how you get on with it. So there's no excuse not to write music if you want to. If you want to do it, it's completely feasible for you to go and download something and start on it right today if you want to do it.
Oh, I really appreciate how you are just telling us how accessible composition is and how all of us can try for anyone who wants to. So you're mentioning that you can use a lot of software for compositions. So when you want to have your composition performed by or recorded by a group of instrumentalists, how do you interact with the instrumentalists so that they can achieve the effect that you were trying for in your compositions?
So, there's these things called orchestrators. So orchestrators are the guys that take what you do and make it into note parts for the people to play. So, like, I do it myself. I really could, but it's time consuming and I haven't got the time. So when I write music videos, video game scores or whatever it is, like with Mario Plus Rabbids Kingdom Battle, we used a live orchestra. So I would write the music in my studio setup. So you'd hear with all the instruments, and it would sound like the recording. I'd send it to the guys. They'd like it. Wouldn't like it. I'd change it, whatever, and I'd finish it off, and it'd be done. And then you can generate a MIDI file. A MIDI file is that thing that it's a little file that when you save the arrangement as a MIDI file, it's on the notes, the pitch, that kind of stuff. It's all in a MIDI file. And you can hand that off to an orchestrator who puts another program which brings it back up as notes. I worked on World of Warcraft last year, Shadowlands. It's the same process that went to Orchestra. It's the same thing. You get an orchestrator who does that for you. And you pay them to do it. There's plenty in Hollywood. Everyone writes something, gives it to an orchestrator. They turn it into parts, and then it goes to the orchestra, etc., etc. You go to the recording studio. Someone conducts it. You're in the control room saying, cello's bar 4, you're too loud, etc., etc. And that's how it works. So, or if you want to, do it yourself. There's programs out there that are just notation programs. One's called Sibelius, after the composer. Another one called what's it called? Is it F? Forgot the name of it. I'm getting old. Anyway, but there's programs out there that will do that. You can learn to just be an orchestrator if you wanted to be. If you want to be an orchestrator, but you can get those programs to try them out. It's got all the notation that everyone will recognize. In that program, you can write it. You can have a very fancy looking piece of music. But if someone like me has got the time, I will use an orchestrator to do it. But I do try the job because I'm classically trained. Even though it's terrible harmony, I do know what a score looks like, So when I work if I'm writing an orchestral piece in Pro Tools, it'll be in score order, like piccolo, flutes, clarinet. So, but yeah, those people exist. I'd say you pay them money; it's their job. But equally, you can learn to do it yourself. It's just if you're player who's used to looking at sheet music, you know what it looks like, right? You know what crescendos are, diminuendos are. You're used to reading it, right? There's no reason why you couldn't learn a program that does that for you, that you can learn to use it and do it yourself if you wanted to. I just haven't got the time.
That's very interesting that there's so much communication, so many people involved with creating a composition. So we have another question from an audience member. This question is to shift focus from one music genre to another. How did you successfully do the shift when going from rock music to video game music production?
So I think it's a fun part, that really. It's fun that you get to do different things, that you get asked to write stuff for Minecraft Dungeons or World of Warcraft Shadowlands or Mario Plus Rabbids or whatever it happens But it's nice to get asked to do different stuff. So I like writing rock music. It's good to get asked to do a bit of variety and not get pigeonholed. So, you know, that's the fun of it. And I think you just shoot your eyes and imagine what it's going to sound like. I really believe it's just about telling a story. Shut your eyes. What do you hear? Right, go and do it. You know, that's the way I look at it. And I think the variety is good fun.
Remember, this question is from an anonymous attendee. He's asking, how did you encourage yourself to have those bursts of creativity and work ethic that you previously mentioned?
Well, I'll probably listen to my favorite stuff. You know, I'll listen to a bit of John Williams or Danny Elfman or something, or a metal band that I like. You know, Nightwish or Queensrÿche or whatever, or Judas Priest. I like Iron Maiden and all those bands. You know, so I do feel that, you know, you can do that to get yourself inspired. But I do, as I said before, I'm really workmanlike. So I just kind of do get on with it, and I do like to not listen to other video game composers if I can help it. Not because I don't like them, just that I'm trying to pull it out my own head all the time. And maybe that's the reason that people say I've got a sound that sound like me, because I just pull up the same stuff all the time that I do all the time, right? But you know, you get in the car, you go to Vons to get the groceries, you listen to some music, you know, you think about it, oh, there's a little trick I didn't realize, a little thing that I didn't know. I did a game a little while ago called Kingdoms of Amalur Reckoning, which was this kind of big role-playing sort of a Lord of the Rings game. It was a gigantic thing, like, you know, huge thing. I wrote like 3 hours of music for the game, something like that. And I was determined to try and get. I love Harry Potter, right? I love John Williams' scores. He scored the first 3 movies, and some other people did the rest. But the first 3 scores of movies, I think, are just absolute genius. So I worked in this game for 4 years, and I listened to those 3 scores in the car on the way to work in the morning and back every day for 4 years. No word of a lie. Just over and over. And my wife was pulling her hair out, going, I'm sick of this Harry Potter, for God's sake, you know. But I learned such a lot by doing that. I hear things every day that I didn't hear before. And so I think using your ears, like if you're scholarly and you're really good at scores, get the score and look at the score and analyze it. That's just not me. I'm better listening to it and picking out what's going on. So I feel like I'm better doing that. But you know, I don't really get writer's block. I don't really get it, because I might write something that's awful, but I will get on with it. Just go with it.
That is very interesting that you listen to these other composers just to really gain inspiration and also have an idea of what you want to do. This is another question from an attendee. He's asking, if you try to avoid listening to other game composers to maintain your own voice, are there any specific composers in other genres you look to for inspiration? And similar
as a composer, definitely like Danny Elfman, you know, and John Williams are my 2 that I really like. When I first started back at this company called Rare UK in '95, I was a massive Danny Elfman fan. I've been a John Williams fan all my life, but I really loved Danny Elfman at that point. Like that first Batman score, I loved that. I thought that changed my life, really. I thought that score was it's got that dark gothicness to it that I hadn't really heard before. It was out there, I just hadn't heard it. I think Danny Elfman does that really well. And the first 2 Batman films that he did, I just think are just fantastic pieces of, you know, movie writing. You know, John Williams is great forever, right? Star Wars and Indiana Jones and everything else he's done is fantastic. There's a movie that came out called Elan Eshkeri. It's one of those movies that kind of went a bit under the radar, but I love the score to that, and that really interests me again. So yeah, I guess that's the people that I can't. What's the question? I forgot the second part of that question. What was it?
The second part of that question was, who has been your biggest inspiration as a composer? And I believe you answered that part. And the other part was, even though you try to avoid listening to other game composers, are there any other specific composers you look to for inspiration?
I do think you can't help hearing stuff. You hear it all the time, right? So I like, my favorite game of all time is Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past, which was on the Super NES. I love that, one of the early games that I played. I love the score to that, even though it's like pretty simple. The main thing to that is just world beatingly good. you know, you listen to Mario, you know, I mean, Nintendo write that poppy jazz style so well. You know, that stuff never goes. It's just fantastic. And you know, TV themes. You know, when I was a kid, you know, Scooby Doo and all that stuff that I listened to as a kid. I think it sticks with you forever. I feel like the kind of 5 years old to 15 or whatever. It's hard to put a figure on it, but the things you listen to when you're a kid, you never forget or the theme tunes or the words to the theme tunes, or what, you never forget those things, right? They stick with you for the rest of your life. You may get your own music taste later on and be a metal fan or a pop fan or whatever you want to be. But I feel like those early years you've got, whatever it is, like I guess these days it's video games, you don't forget those things forever. And it's always in the back of your mind, right? And that's why I find that some of the games that I worked on when I was younger, like, you know, when I started in 1995, people are still talking about them now in the 30s, because that's about the age they were when they played like 10, whatever it was, and they find me on Twitter, and then they, you know, all that kind of stuff. So, and I feel like and I keep getting to know you part of my childhood. And I mean, it's just such an, you know, amazing thing to think that part of anybody's childhood. It's amazing, you know. But as I realised why now, I took a while to realise what they were talking about, but I really get it now. And I remember when I was a kid, the and the TV shows, whatever it was, or the pop songs that I bought back then, you always look at that nostalgia and go, oh, I love that music. Even though it might not be great, you love it till you die, you know. So I think that we've all got that built in, even though we don't know it.
Yeah, that's fascinating how music from our childhoods can really affect us so much later in life. Since you've never really struggled with writer's block, as you mentioned, what are some of the difficulties you've experienced being a composer?
Well, you know, it's often it's getting it right for the person you're working for, right? So that's the hard part, you know, because sometimes you just don't get what they're asking for. Also, like when I'm working on the Mario game now, and the Mario game I did before, the studios to Ubisoft in Milan, right? So they're Italian. So and part of Milan, Ubisoft Milan, Ubisoft Paris do it together, right? So it's two foreign-speaking, you know, countries. And even though they've got excellent English, sometimes they'll just use the wrong word, and I'll take the word what I know it means, and they'll be thinking something else. So I'm not had that happen very often. But it's happened a couple of times on the Mario games that I'm doing, where they've asked for something, I've done it, and they've gone, no, and I've gone, well, that's what you said. No, we didn't. No, we mean this. And I can't remember what the example was now. There's a couple of words they used that they just got the wrong meaning for. And I felt sorry for the guys because their English is fantastic, and I can't speak Italian or French at all, right? So I'm totally in awe of how they do it, how they communicate with me. So that's happened a couple of times where they just got the wrong words. But that, you know, you need to be able to please, because if you can't please the person you're working for, they're just going to find somebody else. It's cutthroat. They'll sack you and find somebody else. So I feel like us media composers, we kind of call that ourselves out these days. It means from like mobile phones to movies, right? And everything in between, right? The whole thing. You know, I feel like we're all just trying to please the guys that we're working for. I've written a couple of concerts. I've written 2 trombone concertos, bizarrely enough. And when this guy, since I was like 12, he's called Ian Bousfield. He just happens to be the best trombone player in the world. I'm not exaggerating. It's bizarre that I know him. So I wrote him a concerto a couple of years ago, and when I got played at the International Trombone Festival a couple of years ago, he performed it, the first premiere thing. But a guy sat in the audience called Charlie Vernon, who's another symphony orchestra. So he said to me, "Can you write me a concerto?" So I've done 2 of these concertos. And the weird thing about writing a concerto or any kind of concert music is that I found weird was that you've only got to run it past yourself. Do you like it? That's it. That's the test, right? I guess as a media composer, you're always working for somebody else, like a director, whatever it is, you know, and you have to please them and get it right what they want to hear. Where when you're writing a piece of music that just concert piece, it's what I like. I don't care what everybody else likes, right? And that was such a really weird, freeing sort of thing. So I kept thinking, I was sending Ian and Charlie little snippets that I was writing. I was doing it on my computer and writing it in, you know, like so they could hear what it sounded like. And they're going, yeah, great. And then nobody really commented on it. I was like, well, why are they commenting? It's because they're the soloists. They don't get to comment. They just get to play it right. So they play what the composer wants. It's just my thing, right? So it was so weird, like being in charge of myself for a change. Because I'm usually not in charge of myself at all. So that was a weird experience, a weird thing. So working as a freelance guy like I am in media is you have to please the people that you're working for. And if you don't, you need to try harder, or you probably just have to give up and they'll find somebody else. That hasn't happened to me yet, thank God, but you never know what tomorrow brings. But do the concert pieces, or writing pop music for yourself, or whatever it is, you write for you're a banjo in, or you're a solo singer, or whatever you are, that's for you, right? You sing and write what you like. It doesn't matter what anybody else thinks of it. If you want to make money out of it, then hopefully they'll like it. But the point being is that you write for yourself. You write what you want to hear. If it's just discordant and you like it to be all discordant all the time, and to be, that's great. That's what you want to write. That's out of your head. That's great. So the thing about music is, even though we have a lot of theory and a lot of rules, there really aren't any rules, not these days. You write what you want, in the style you want, with what instruments you want, doesn't matter what it is, do what you want. If you're writing it for yourself, you're working for somebody else, you do what they want.
That's really interesting. I probably, with many other people, have not really considered that contrast between working for others and working for yourselves in terms of what you can compose for. So we have another question from an attendee. This attendee is asking, I find myself struggling to adapt to using electronic programs to write compositions. What would you recommend I do to become more comfortable with the technology side of composing, as well as composing in general?
Honestly, you need to just get on with it. Yeah, I know it sounds a little bit brutal, but you do. Like, you know, I'm an older guy, right? So I don't like learning new software, but I have to do it. And the day and age that we live in now, we all have to do it. You just have to get on with it. And I know it's not, something that's not pleasant. It's like, oh, I need a bit of software. I don't really want to deal with it, deal with that. You know, you just have to. And believe me, I know how hard it is, because, you know, I don't like doing it either. But you have to do it. You have to just learn the next thing, whatever it is, and the new bit of software, the new instrument you've just bought, whatever it is. Because you get left behind otherwise. Like, I feel like the raw material, the melody and the harmony, right? That's great. You've got that. Let's say you've got that. You can do it. Great. You've got to get used to sticking it into something that people can. Because, like, you know, when John Williams was writing E.T., right, which is a fantastic score, he was sat at a piano with Steven Spielberg going, it's going to be great. Let's do this. When it gets to orchestra, but don't worry, it's going to be fantastic. They had no idea what it's going to sound like. No idea when it got to orchestra. Obviously, John Williams is amazing, so it's going to sound great, and it did. But it was just him sat at a piano going, da 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 da. That's a great tune. It'd be great with a violin to play it, believe me. You know. So, but these days, because we can all make it on our computers, directors and producers expect to hear it pretty close to what's going to sound like when the orchestra does it, or whatever the ensemble is going to do, or a wind band, or whatever it is, right? So you've got to be able to present that like that. They're too used to hearing it in its nearly finished form. You can't just play it on the piano or the guitar anymore, or whatever it is. They want to hear it the way it's going to be, or as near as damn it. So there is no solution to that. You just have to get better at getting on with the software. And I think I also found that great, you know, type into YouTube, how do I quantize, you know, in Cubase, whatever it is, how do I use quantize? And there'll be 85 billion videos of guys showing you how to do it. I mean, like when I started, there wasn't that was just get the manual out and go, oh my God, you got a manual, it's like this. You're looking through it, trying to find out, you know, what's the keyboard shortcut for whatever it is. You'd be like looking for it for 2 days, you know. You know what I mean? These days, type it into Google, type it into YouTube. There'll be a person on the video going, this is how you do it. I do that. It's a fantastic resource. Yeah, how do I use Melodyne as a bit of software that can control pitch? How do I use Melodyne? Typed into Google, it was there. I knew it in 5 minutes. I was trying to find it, going through the manual, going, oh, what is it? You know, we're not used to turning pages these days. Oh, we like to watch it, look at the screen. I don't want to turn an actual page and look at something. I want to, you know, so go on to type it into Google, however long the question is. Type it into YouTube. You'll find somebody that's showing you how to do it. So you really just have to get on with it. There's no excuse. You have to do it. It's the only way. Or just don't do it and give up. You have to get used to it. And I hate it, and I totally understand, but you have to get on with it.
That's some great advice, and also very relevant, especially because now more and more our worlds are becoming digital, so everything is necessary to be digital. We have another question from an attendee. This attendee is asking, you've made such a massive impact on the video game realm. How does your success affect the way you go about writing compositions?
Well, I'm very glad you think I've had a massive influence. I don't know if I feel that way myself. You know what? I feel like Like it's done now, it's gone now. No matter how successful it was, great. What matters is from this point forward. And I start a new project, and I always think I can't do it. I always think, it's too hard, I can't do it. Especially doing the Mario games. Like, for God's sake, you know, if you told me in 1995 I'd work on a Mario game or Super Smash Brothers, I'd never believed it. Like, they're giant IPs. They're giant. I mean, to get to touch Mario is just unbelievable. And I was totally scared of doing that. I thought, you know, if I make a mess of this, I'm just going to be hated forever. You know, my kids are going to hate me because they like Mario games, you know. So what's the first part of that question again? I've just waffled again, I forgot what I'm saying.
The first part of the question was referencing that you've made such a massive impact on the video game realm. How does your success, and how does your success affect the way you go about writing compositions?
Right, yeah. So sometimes having success, people might think you're going to be fantastic forever, and I might not be. If you've been great in the past, yeah, he's going to be great, and I'm terrible from that point onwards. You know, so I think you have to, I don't really, you know, I'm not an egotistical composer. I've met plenty of our guys over in Hollywood who have got big egos and not very good. Like, I just don't like that. I'm just a bloke that writes music, like the guy that does the pool, like the mechanic, like the guy that works in the shop. We just got jobs to do, right? This is my job, that's their job, that's what we do, right? And I kind of treat it like that. I don't like to get wrapped up in that kind of enormity of oh my God, I've been great in the past. Like, I don't want to know about that. It's irrelevant to me. I feel like it doesn't help. Just be humble, but be brilliant. That's what I think, right? You know, work. If you're the hardest worker in the room. Be the hardest worker in the room. Get on with it and just be brilliant. You know, that's all that matters. I don't care what you've done before. All that matters is what you're doing right now. And so that's the way I feel about writing music. It's nice to have some success in the past. People know me for what I've done, great. But I'm still working in the business. And what I do from this today is going to matter about tomorrow, you know? So I feel like you need to think about what going forward, not looking back, because you can wallow in that. I'm great and get an ego and all that. I just think that's worthless. And I think that people don't like it. I don't want to be in a room with a guy who's got an ego. It's just not, it's a waste of my time. Let's just be happy and jolly together, and let's make something great. Let's make a great game, a great movie, a great mobile phone game, whatever it is. Let's just all get along and understand that we're all working together as a team to make the best thing for the person that picks it up at the end of the day and plays it, because they're the most important person. We are not important. The most important people are the people that pick up the game and play it and enjoy, or watch the movie and enjoy it. That's the ultimate boss of me. That person that likes the music, likes the movie, whatever it is. So they're most important. I remember watching an interview with Harrison Ford. He was getting about Indiana Jones. He was getting interviewed, and some guy in the audience said, you know, this movie's not as great as the last one. And he sort of said to me, you know what, mate? I really don't care what you think of the movie. He said, all I care about is the audience that can go and see it. They're the ultimate people that decide, not you. You're a critic. Who cares what you think? What's important is, you know, like, you know, when you watch the Oscars and the biggest movie of the year has probably been Avengers Endgame or whatever it is, that doesn't get mentioned, right? You don't see it on you don't get mentioned, the stars aren't there, it doesn't get shown because the critics don't like it. Like, as far as I'm concerned, who cares what the critics think of it? What's the most important part is the people that actually listen to your art properly, not the critics who can analyze it and work it out. It's a kid in the street that goes, I like that tune, I can whistle it, whatever it is. They're the most important people, none of this critic nonsense. So don't get wrapped up in that, I'm great, I'm fantastic, it's all worthless. Today forward's what's important.
Yeah, I really appreciate the emphasis that you place on modesty and maintaining focus on like who you're composing for and what you're composing from that point forward, because it is extremely important. Due to the limitations of the pandemic, in terms of your ability to network and in the entertainment industry as a whole, has the pandemic affected the amount of compositions you've been writing or the amount of work that you have been, or commissions that you've been receiving?
So me was all right, funny enough. I think because during the brunt of the pandemic, that was 2020, right? So yeah, last year. So I was doing World of Warcraft all last year. So Blizzard's a very giant company, down in Irvine, and so it took me a little bit of time to kind of get used to the model of working from home. But once they got that sorted out, it was just like normal. I mean, I work remotely, right? I'm sitting in my house in Agora Hills, and I work remotely. I just send things to Milan or Paris, whatever it is, And I feel like it didn't really affect me at all. Like, I'd take my kids to school, go to Vons. I guess the kids weren't going to school. You guys were off, right, for a year, So I didn't do that anymore. But the rest of it was the same, really. I went to Vaughn's now and then, and I started writing music, what I do most of the time. So it didn't really affect me. But I feel like the movie industry as a whole, that got hit really hard because they have to be somewhere to be actually physically guys acting, you know, filming it, all the stuff. And they couldn't do it because of COVID, right? So I feel like the whole industry in general, movie-wise, really took a hit. A lot, you know, and people, things like also like people playing orchestras, like the London Symphony Orchestra, that all went away. You know, those people all, and even recording movie soundtracks stopped in LA. We stopped everywhere because people couldn't be in rooms together. We recorded the soundtrack to World of Warcraft, Shadowlands, in Australia, because Australia wasn't really badly hit by the virus, right? You know, most of the time, so we could hire an orchestra there. We could monitor it remotely, you know, watching online, and that's how that happened. So I think the different parts of the industry got hit differently. Like video games, I don't think got hit at all. I think it's a fact video games did better because people at home playing games, right? You know, but the movie industry got hit hard. So, you know, not a lot of movies getting made, right? If you look at your kind of Fandango, your Netflix, there wasn't an awful lot of stuff getting new content because people weren't making it. They couldn't make it. So it was animation. Animation you can make it, right? Because you got people in a room, but like movie making got hit hard. So I kind of feel like it's getting back. You've seen everything's starting to get remade. It's starting to be production again, you know, the kind of thing. But there was a big gap for them. Those guys got hit pretty hard.
Yes, thankfully the entertainment industry and music industry is all bouncing back. We have one last question for you today. Are there any current projects that you're working on?
Right, that's hard for us video game composers, right? Because they make you sign an NDA, which is a non-disclosure agreement. So you can't actually talk about it. They don't, because in movies you can announce the composer and say, oh, because the movie already known about, they can do that kind of thing. But video games are always super secret, right? So they can't announce it. So I am doing this one called Mario Plus Rabbids Sparks of Hope right now. I'm working on something else that I can't talk about, as usual. But the Mario games, I guess, that was just announced 2-3 weeks ago. That's my big news. And so I'm super happy to be doing that again because I really enjoyed doing the last game. And, you know, to get working with Mario is fun. You know, I have to pinch myself to go, oh my God, I'm working on a Mario game. I'm the first Western composer to ever work on Mario. Why is it me? Why isn't it somebody else? You know, it seems crazy to me. So that's all I can say really at the moment.
Yeah, that was perfect. Thank you so much for being here with us today. I'm sure that all of the attendees got so much insight out of this. I know that I did. So we just wanted to thank you again for being here. And I'm going to turn it over to Abby to close us out.
All right. Thanks for asking me. I'll say goodbye now.
Oh, okay. Bye. Thank you so much for being here.
All right. No worries, Abby. Great. Thanks for asking me.
All right. Yeah, that was really great. Well, that was our last event for today, but tomorrow, if you want to tune in at 11 a.m. Pacific, we will have cellist Jennifer Kletzel talk about how to find your own musical path. Yeah, thanks, Rachel, for hosting, and we'll hope to see you all tomorrow. All right. Bye, everyone.